Alright, good day, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, I want to give an official price prediction for what I think Hex could do by next cycle's blow off top. So, if you kind of follow cycle theory the way I do, you'd understand that there's a very solid case that cryptocurrency will continue to move in somewhat of a cyclical fashion, given how it's moved historically. And so, next kind of blow off top, next top bull market is likely to be sometime late 2025, maybe 2026, especially given that Hex kind of topped off after the majority of the rest of the market topped off. So folks, in this video, I want to give a rationale for why I think Hex can do a 1000x from this cycle's all-time low to the next all-time high. And make sure you stick around to the end of the video, because I also want to describe an incredible opportunity where you can earn massive yield on Hex, stake it while remaining liquid. I want to share with you guys an opportunity here with Hex where not only could there be a 1000x still in the game, but you can also earn on average 36-38% of your year through staking, but while still remaining liquid. So folks, stay tuned, like and subscribe, click all the buttons. YouTube loves it when you click buttons and you say things. And without further ado, let's delve into it. So folks, before we really kick things off here, I just want to update y'all and say that Messin, my partner on this channel, has been kind of absent from the channel as of late. I want to let you guys all know that he's fine. He's just been very busy. In fact, here at aMillionortheMoon, the company has chosen to send him off to a 12-week program, a sensitivity training retreat for misgendering me. So that is where Messin has been and where he will be until he learns to not support the patriarchy. Now guys, putting all that silliness aside, I just want to say that right now is a very interesting time to be talking about Hex. Why? Because Hex is seemingly breaking out of a resistance trend line that we've been in for the better part of nearly a year, 335 days roughly. So this is very interesting, and what I've noticed, what happens many times, is when we kind of break out like this, the market seems to kind of want to retrace along our trend line here. So if we kind of zoom in here, take a closer look, I would not be super duper surprised if we continue to retrace and find support on our trend line here, if not kind of our secondary trend line here, somewhat within this area. Now that's short term. Who cares about short term? I want to talk about why I think Hex has a 1000x within it, and to kind of explain why I think Hex has a 1000x still within it. Let's first kind of take a look at Bitcoin. Now, why are we looking at Bitcoin? Because if we listen to Richard Hart, what is Hex most similar to?
So all Hex is Bitcoin with a proof of work change.
There you have it, folks. Hex is like Bitcoin except with a proof of work change. So Hex has been out for one cycle. It has had one parabolic blow off top. If we take a look at Bitcoin's first parabolic blow off top, what do we see? We see that Bitcoin had roughly 50,000% growth. All right, well, that was its first cycle. What did Bitcoin do from its first cycle to its second cycle? Because as we've seen in crypto, we usually have diminishing returns from cycle to cycle. And as we can see, Bitcoin's second cycle, we had 13,000% returns. Now, for the sake of easy math here, let's just call this 1/5 as good as the first cycle. So Bitcoin did about 1/5 as good as it did the first time it had a parabolic rally. We saw 50,000% returns here, and then we saw roughly 13,000% returns the second time around. So if Hex is most similar to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin had diminishing returns of 1/5 from the first cycle to the second, and if we measure what Hex did this first time around, and as we can see, Hex did nearly a 10,000x, depending on what kind of exchange you look at, right? So if Hex got a 10,000x the first time around, and Hex is most similar to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin went from 50,000% returns first cycle to 10,000% returns second cycle, 1/5 growth. Well, if we had to extrapolate that to Hex, what would be 1/5 growth for Hex? That would be a 2000x from whatever this cycle's all-time lows happen to be. Now, some people are speculating that the bottom may be in for Hex here at just about 3 cents. I'm frankly not sure, folks. there's some arguments that there's more downside in store for Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin does indeed go into the low teens, I very much doubt the hex would not be affected. I would wager that it would be affected, and so it's an open question as to whether or not the market bottom is in yet for Bitcoin or hex. Regardless, we've had basically we're hovering around a 90% correction from all-time highs, and I think accumulating anywhere near these ranges is eventually likely to be extremely profitable come next Bitcoin halving in 2024 and bull market in 2025. But that's not all though. With the release of Pulse Chain quickly approaching, the supply of hex will double, meaning that 2000x that we extrapolated hex could do from this cycle's all-time low, given how Bitcoin has historically performed, should get cut in half because the supply of hex is anticipated to soon double, which is how I come to the conclusion that I think hex has a 1000x still in her by the end of the next cycle's all-time high, which I'm betting should be sometime late 2025, perhaps 2026. Now, folks, if we do indeed assume that 3 cents was the all-time low for hex, what would a 1000x give us by 2026? Google, what is 3 cents times 1,000?
The answer is 30 United States dollars.
30 US dollars. Folks, $30 is my price prediction for hex, blow off top of next cycle on 2 chains, not to mention, folks, that you can stake your hex. And if you're an average size, average length staker of, I believe, of 6.55 years or more, you earn about 38.31% APY. That's according to the Staker app. But folks, I want to talk about a tremendously interesting opportunity that I will be pulling the trigger on in the very near future, where, folks, the catch with hex is that sure, you could stake and earn a high APY, and if hex does indeed go on to go to $30 and you're earning around 36% a year, that's fantastic. Even if you're earning 20% a year if you're staking for a shorter period of time, those are still fantastic returns. But the problem is that when you stake your hex, it's locked up, and if you choose a 3-year-long stake term, you cannot withdraw your principal until half the term has been served, no matter what length you choose. And if you go to withdraw your hex stake early, you get heavily penalized. So essentially, whatever stake length you choose, whether it's 1 day or 5,555 days, you are locked in for that period of time. And so for many people, it's quite difficult to hold funds completely locked up for up to 15 years. So a great hex community member who's also a founder and a programmer created MAXIMUS DAO, which is essentially a pooled together hex stake where people would send in their hex, they would get a 1-for-1 copy of MAXI, and they would stake it for the max length of time, 5,555 days. And the great part of Maximus, folks, is that when you stake with the pool, you get the bigger pays better bonus, plus the MAXI token, which you can sell because it's an ERC20, not locked up. It's liquid whenever you like. So you essentially have exposure to a 15-year long stake, but should some emergency arise or whatever happens, you can sell your MAXI token, which represents your stake in the massive pulled together 15-year long hex stake. So I bring this up because the founder is soon going to be doing this with not just a 15-year long stake, but a 1-year long stake with a base token, a 3-year long stake with a trio token, a 7-year long stake with a lucky token, and a 10-year long stake with the Deci token. Where again, folks, once the interface goes live, it's not live out yet, make sure you like and subscribe for further updates. You'll be able to, for one, trade some hex for either base, trio, lucky, Deci. All that hex goes into one pool, and it gets staked all together for 1 year, 3 years, 7 years, or 10 years, whatever you pool you decide to participate in. And again, the benefit of that is you get allocation to the bigger pays better bonus, plus the liquidity of being able to sell the token whenever you like. Now, guys, I bring all this up because I think the trio token specifically is a tremendous opportunity, much more so than the lucky or Deci token, for this reason. Now, I don't want to make this video too long, but I think this is really worthwhile bringing up. The reason why I think Trio is a superior option, in my opinion, for me, over something like Lucky or Deci or even Maxi, is because the Trio token is likely to launch before the end of this year. And if it does, we're going to be locked up and staked for 3 years. So folks, if we launch before, the end of the year, late 2022 here, that means that 3-year-long pooled hex stake, which is likely to be one of the biggest 3-year-long hex stakes ever, where everyone gets a slice of that bigger pays better bonus for participating in this pooled stake, that will be expiring sometime late 2025, which is when I theorize the next crypto bull market is likely to top off. Additionally, given that hex topped off a month or two after the rest of the market, and given that there's some reason to believe in lengthening cycles, I really think that with the trio pool, there is a solid chance of once that pool expires and you get back your original hex plus interest, that I1 will have the opportunity to sell around the next hex cycle all-time high. And this is extremely important, folks, because let's say you do participate in trio and come late 2025, the hex pool expires, you get your principal back plus your interest, and let's say you sell all around that time. Well, folks, there is very likely to be another cycle market-wide crash where we go into a bear market for roughly a year sometime during early 2026, because crypto is cyclical. We have these periods of euphoric parabolic price action that's ultimately unsustainable, followed by an inevitable correction where we consolidate sideways and then rinse and repeat due to the Bitcoin halvings. This cycle is likely to have an effect for quite some time more. And so if you sell near that next hex all-time high at around late 2025 and move into stable coins and then buy in at the bottom of the next bear cycle sometime late 2026, early 2027, well, you'll be able to buy much more hex than you had originally if you're able to somewhat time the next top roughly and then somewhat buy back in the next bottom roughly. In my opinion, if you're selling sometime late 2025 and then accumulating again sometime late 2026, that's all you really need to somewhat time a rough top and time a rough bottom. And in doing so, you would be able to accumulate vast amounts of more hex than if you had participated in the Lucky or Deci pools and earned that 36% roughly APY year over year. Because while these Lucky and Deci folks don't have to take the added risk of attempting to time the market and you just consistently earn that APY year over year, if one is able, and I'm not advocating that you do this, I'm just trying to make the case that if one is able to roughly time the market moving forward and sell that trio expiry late 2025, accumulate again late 2026, then you would have been able to earn far more hex than if you would simply participated in the Lucky and Deci pools and gotten much more hex than whatever that the interest rate on those are paying out. Now, with that being said, this is a much more high-risk strategy. I'm not advocating that anyone do this. I'm just expressing that this is a strategy that I will be exploring, and I'm going to do it, guys, because I think I can roughly do it. But if you're the kind of person who says, hey, I just want to put my money in this. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to touch the market. Then, then Lucky and Deci, I'm sure might make some sense. But I kind of want to present this opportunity, guys, because I will be exploiting this. Make sure you like and subscribe, because as more news comes out for when Trio goes live, the base, Trio, Lucky, Deci tokens are not out yet. Those pools are not out yet. We will be giving you guys updates as those come out. If you guys like my price prediction and rationale for what I think Hex can do moving forward, let me know down in the comments below. Folks, everyone like and subscribe, and until next time, take care.